Hello. I always believed that after 24 years together, our marriage had real meaning. But all of that shattered the night I saw her come in at 1:30 a.m., a hair tousled, dress wrinkled, like the night had left its mark and she didn't care who saw. And when our eyes met, she didn't look ashamed. She looked irritated, like I was the one interrupting her night. What she didn't know was that moment lit a fire in me when I wasn't about to put out. I'm Derek Lawson. I'm 50 years old, and I built my life from the ground up, starting with nothing but a dream and a whole lot of grit. My company, Lawson Custom Rods, specializes in high-end fishing gear, and every inch of it came from 26 years of hard work and calloused hands. And through it all, I thought I had a partner who stood beside me, someone who was proud of what we built together. But looking back now, I see it clear. Being proud isn't the same as being loyal. Everything came crashing down on a Wednesday night, a night when I was supposed to be out of town in Seattle for a supplier's conference. A busted water pipe at the venue pushed the event to the next day, so I figured I'd just head home early instead. I didn't bother calling Tessa. I thought it'd be a nice surprise. Maybe even suggest we spend a rare evening together, just the two of us. But when I pulled up to the house, her car wasn't in the driveway. I didn't think much of it at first. Her boutique sometimes hosted late-night events or client meetups. Timberline threads had been her passion project for nearly 11 years, and recently she'd been putting a lot of energy into its social media, always talking about building the brand. So I made myself comfortable, grabbed a cold beer, and settled in to wait. An hour went by, then another, then a third. I checked her shop's Instagram, nothing about any event tonight. I sent her a quick text, no reply. Tried calling straight to voicemail. By midnight, my gut was in knots like I'd swallowed broken glass. This wasn't like her, or maybe it was now, and I'd just been blind to it. At 1:30 a.m., headlights washed across the living room wall. I heard the car door shut, then silence. Like she was sitting there, trying to collect herself. I turned off the lamp and sat in the dark, my heart pounding so hard it echoed in my ribs. When she walked through the door, she stumbled just a little, not from drinking, but with that careless confidence of someone who thought they were alone. Her hair looked different than it had that morning, styled in a way she hadn't bothered doing for me in years. Her dress looked rumpled and short, with a small tear near the side. She was humming softly, a tune I didn't recognize, as she dropped her purse on the chair, like she was a stranger making herself at home in my life. "Derek, Jesus, you scared me," she gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "What are you doing here? I thought you were in Seattle." "Conference got postponed," I said calmly. Pipe burst at the venue. I looked her straight in the eye. "Where were you, Tessa?" She blinked, and the surprise on her face hardened into something colder. "You could have called," she said, dodging the question. "You scared the hell out of me." I stood slowly, watching her like I was seeing her for the first time. "You still didn't answer me." She let out a sharp sigh, her face flashing with irritation. "I was with Lauren," she said. "We grabbed drinks after a pop-up event. My phone died." The lie hung in the air like smoke, thick, undeniable, choking the room. She walked further into the living room, slipping off her heels with a practiced flick of her ankles. The whole act felt smooth, routine, like she was trying to make coming home at nearly 1:30 a.m. feel perfectly normal. "You don't believe me," she said, reading the look on my face. "Should I?" I asked, my voice steady, though my insides felt like a pressure cooker ready to blow. She ran her fingers through her hair, messing it up on purpose, like she was trying to erase the evidence. "I don't know what you want me to say, Derek. I told you where I was." I stepped into the kitchen, letting the harsh light cast sharp shadows on the floor between us. "Then call Lauren. Right now." "That's ridiculous," Tessa snapped. "It's after midnight." "Exactly," I said. "So if you were just out having drinks with a friend, it should be easy to prove." Her eyes narrowed, her whole face tightening. "I don't have to prove anything to you. When did you turn into such a control freak?" That hit me like a slap. 24 years, and I'd never once snooped through her phone, questioned her schedule, or tracked her down. But tonight? Tonight was different. "This isn't about control," I said quietly. "It's about respect. The kind of respect I deserved after all these years. The kind she clearly didn't have for me, for our marriage, or even for herself." Then she laughed, and it wasn't the laugh I used to love. It was cold, sharp, like ice water pouring down my back. "Listen to yourself," she said. "One late night, and suddenly I'm the villain? That's just unfair." "Who is he?" I asked, barely above a whisper. That question just sat there between us, buzzing like a live wire. For a split second, I saw it. surprise in her eyes, but she shook it off fast. There is no one else, she said with a sigh, turning toward the stairs. You're being paranoid. I'm too tired for this. I stepped in front of her, not touching her, but making it clear she wasn't walking away without answering me. Your dress is torn, I said. Her hand instinctively reached for the rip near her hip. I caught it on a bar stool, she snapped. For heaven's sake, Derek, what's gotten into you? What's gotten into me? I said. Tessa, it's been 24 years. And you still can't give me the basic decency of the truth? You want the truth? She hissed, her voice sharp and eyes filled with something that felt a whole lot like hate. I feel like I'm suffocating in this marriage. The truth is, you haven't really seen me in years, she said, her voice cold and clipped. You've been so wrapped up in your precious fishing tackle business that you forgot how to be a husband. I took a step back like she'd physically shoved me. That's her justification? That somehow makes it okay to lie to my face and come home at 1:30 in the morning wearing another man's cologne? Her face lost a little color then. She hadn't realized I could smell it. It wasn't strong, but it was there, noticeable. Definitely not my scent. Never had been. I want his name, I said, my voice low, steady, and deadly calm. Tessa lifted her chin. His name is none of your business, she snapped. But unlike you, he actually notices me. I watched her turn and head up the stairs. Each step was slow, deliberate, like she wanted to make a point with her posture alone. She didn't look back, and I didn't go after her. I just sank back onto the couch in that dark living room, feeling something deep inside me break. Not my heart. Not yet. That would come later. What cracked first was the respect I'd always held for her, for our life together. I didn't sleep that night. I went out to the workshop behind the garage and ran my hands over the fishing rod I'd been customizing. Working with my hands always helped clear my thoughts. There's no room for emotion when you're focused on getting the details right. By the time the sun came up, I knew what I had to do. When I came inside, she was already in the kitchen, dressed for work in clothes that didn't fit the woman I used to know. Tight black pants, a blouse that was far from professional, clearly meant to draw attention. Not the same Tessa who'd helped me pack tackle boxes and pour over sales orders at midnight. This was someone new. Someone who spent more time curating Instagram posts than living real life. Coffee's fresh, she said without looking up from her phone. We need to talk, I said as I poured myself a mug. About last night, she scoffed. I'd prefer not to. You came off as jealous and pushy. It wasn't a good look. I set my cup down hard enough to rattle the spoon beside it. 24 years, Tessa. That deserves a real conversation. I deserve honesty. She finally looked at me, annoyed. What exactly do you want from me, Derek? The truth, I said plainly. No more games. There is no game, she said sharply. I went out for drinks with a friend. You made it into an inquisition. I leaned back against the counter, studying her face. How long have you been seeing him? Something flickered in her eyes, tightness around the edges, just for a second. There's no him, she said. Then let me ask it another way, I said, keeping my tone even. How long has there been someone else? She shot to her feet, almost knocking over the chair. I don't have to listen to this. You don't, I said. But walking out of this conversation tells me everything I need to know. She snatched up her purse. Her voice was louder now, more defensive. You're delusional. You've been so obsessed with rods and reels, you forgot there's more to life than fiberglass and fishing line. You stopped seeing me. And instead of telling me that, I said, you went out and found someone who would. That's the choice you made. She was silent, and silence, in that moment, was more revealing than any confession. His name is Brent, she finally muttered, her chin lifting like she was daring me to react. He models for the boutique's Instagram. He's 30, and he makes me feel alive again. The number hit me like a brick to the chest. 30, almost 2 decades younger than her. How long? I asked again, quieter now. For months, she said, watching my face. Maybe it's a midlife crisis. Maybe it's something else. But it happened. No remorse. No apology. Just the facts, flat and heartless. Does he know you're married? I asked. She looked away for a second. Yes. And he doesn't care. Of course not, I said. Because he's not the one throwing away a life. She crossed her arms. He understands me. The message was clear. You never did. I nodded slowly, letting the decision settle into place. I'll be moving into the guest room today. That surprised her. She'd expected anger, maybe begging, possibly even a fight. But calm acceptance? That caught her off guard. Just like that? She asked. No, I said. Not just like that. After 24 years, 4 months of lying, and not a single word of apology, I'm done pretending. I stepped past her and paused at the door. I built Lawson custom rods with my own 2 hands. Tessa, I'll rebuild my life the same way. The weekend passed like a Cold War. No words. No eye contact. She was at the boutique most of the time, or so she claimed. I didn't ask anymore. I didn't need to. By Monday morning, I'd met with Victor Reynolds, an old friend from my early fishing days who also happened to be one of the top divorce lawyers in Washington. We sat in his office, sipping coffee while he laid it out straight. She cheated, Derek. But Washington's a no-fault state, he said. Courts don't care about infidelity. Document everything, protect your business, and don't move out of the house. Blunt advice. But it was exactly what I needed to hear. It's about dividing up what's left now, and Lawson Custom Rods is right in the crosshairs. That afternoon, I hunkered down in my home office, sorting through 24 years' worth of financial records. Being married that long meant just about everything in our lives was tangled together, but I'd always kept the business book spotless. Tessa never really cared about the nuts and bolts of how the company ran. That little detail was finally working in my favor. When she came home that evening, I was sitting at the dining room table, neck deep in paperwork. She paused in the doorway, eyeing the mess. Spring cleaning, she asked, trying to sound casual. Something like that, I said, eyes still on the documents. How was work? She set her keys down and slowly circled the table. Busy. Fine. What's all this? I finally looked up and met her eyes. I'm getting ready. Victor Reynolds is filing my divorce paperwork, I added. Her face flushed instantly. Divorce? Just like that? You're not even going to try to fix this. I almost laughed out loud. What would fixing it even look like, Tessa? You spending time with that 30-year-old while I pretend it's not happening. It doesn't have to go this way, she said, switching to that soft, persuasive tone I'd heard her use on customers 100 times. We could do counseling. Take a break. Why? I asked quietly. Do you love him? She looked away. It's not about love. That actually makes it worse, I said. And you still haven't answered the question. Her face hardened. You're being cruel. No, I replied, steady and calm. I'm just being honest. You might want to try it sometime. She marched over to the liquor cabinet and poured herself a heavy glass of whiskey. So what now? You're going to torch everything because I made one mistake. 4 months of decisions aren't a mistake, I said. And I'm not torching anything. I'm just saving what's worth saving. She took a slow drink, eyes narrowing. You mean your precious business? That's part of it, I said, going back to the papers. You'll be hearing from Victor tomorrow. I'd recommend you get a lawyer. You can't afford to buy me out, she snapped. I'm entitled to half. You're entitled to half of what we built together. Yes, I said, locking eyes with her. But the prenup you signed protects everything I brought into the marriage, including the company. Her face went pale. She'd completely forgotten about the prenup her dad once brushed off as unnecessary. Honestly, I never thought I'd need it either, but I never threw it away. That prenup is ancient, she said, her voice shaking. It's still enforceable, I said. Victor checked it this morning. For the first time since this all began, she looked genuinely rattled. The balance of power had shifted, and she knew it. You've been planning this, she said, eyes accusing. I shook my head. No, Tessa. You made this plan the day you decided our vows didn't mean anything. For days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. The woman on the other end didn't say who she was right away. Is this Derek Lawson? She asked, voice a little shaky. Speaking, I said, setting down the custom fly rod I'd been finishing. My name's Emily, she said. I work at Timberline Threads. I think we need to talk. 25 minutes later, we were sitting across from each other at a quiet coffee shop 3 towns away, someplace Tessa wouldn't wander into by accident. Emily looked nervous, fidgeting with her drink. I probably shouldn't be doing this, she said, glancing around. But what's going on? It's not right. What exactly is going on? I asked. She took a breath. Brent's not just modeling for the boutique. He's using Tessa's money to live large and seems to be getting close to other women. I leaned back, trying to absorb what I was hearing. Keep going. Last week, I overheard them fighting in her office, she said. He told her she needed to lock down more assets before she left you. Emily looked genuinely upset. She mentioned the prenup, and he got upset. Said she claimed you'd be easy to manipulate. A cold weight settled in my chest. Did she say anything about specific plans? Emily nodded. She's been quietly moving expensive vintage pieces out of the boutique and into a storage unit, off the books. She's planning to claim the business is tanking, so she'll get less value pinned on it during the divorce. I studied her carefully. Why are you telling me all this? Emily looked me dead in the eye. My mom betrayed my dad when I was 15, left him with almost nothing. He never really recovered. She paused. And Tessa? She's not who she pretends to be. She talks down to us, takes credit for everything we do. I gave her a small nod. I appreciate you stepping forward. That takes guts. There's more, Emily said, sliding her phone across the table. Tessa left this at the shop yesterday, Emily said, sliding the phone over. She added, her passcode is your anniversary. I figured that was ironic. I stared down at the phone. I wasn't planning to dig through her private stuff. You don't have to, Emily told me. Just look at the messages from Brent. They're already open. Against my better judgment, I glanced. And what I saw hit harder than I expected. Emily hadn't been exaggerating. If anything, she'd held back. There were messages about selling off my custom fishing gear collection, stuff worth over $100,000. Talk about moving money offshore. She was planning to twist things, to claim I mistreated her emotionally, so she could bypass the prenup. Emily reached for the phone. I need to return this before she realizes it's gone, she said. But I took screenshots. I'll email them to you. Once she left, I just sat there, stunned. This wasn't just a fling anymore. The woman I'd shared 24 years with was now doing things that could destroy my life. I picked up the phone and called Victor. We need to speed things up, I told him. And I want a forensic accountant to take a deep dive into the boutique's finances. He paused. It's that serious? Worse than I thought, I said. She's not just walking away. She's torching everything on her way out. Within days, the forensic accountant started uncovering red flags in Timberline Thread's books. Over $180,000 worth of inventory had vanished in the past few months. The cash deposits didn't line up with recorded sales. Tessa had been draining the business, piece by piece, setting the stage for her exit. While that was unfolding, I doubled down on protecting Lawson Custom Rods. I called an emergency meeting with my 3 most trusted employees. Told them the truth. I'm going through a tough divorce, I said, and my wife may be coming after the business. Kevin, my production manager who'd been with me 16 years, didn't blink. Whatever you need, Derek, we've got you. I rolled out new security protocols, changed every password, and moved our most valuable gear to a safe location. I also cataloged my entire collection, photos, appraisals, everything locked down. That evening, when I got home, Tessa was waiting. Dressed sharp, one of those outfits that used to stop me in my tracks. But now all I saw was strategy behind the style. We need to talk, she said in that overly soft tone I knew too well. This divorce thing, it's gotten out of hand. Maybe we rush things. I dropped my keys. Which part did we rush exactly? Fighting like this, she said, easing closer. We built a life together, 24 years. Doesn't that deserve a second chance? I kept space between us. Funny timing for a change of heart. Something happened. Her smile wavered, just for a second. I've been thinking. Maybe Brent was just a symptom of problems we can fix. What happened? I asked. Did he leave you for someone with more money? She flinched, then tried to recover. That's a cruel thing to say. I'm trying to save our marriage. No, I said evenly. You're trying to salvage the plan. Let me guess. Things got complicated when the prenup didn't crumble. Or maybe she'd gotten wind of the missing inventory being found. Her face turned pale. I don't know what you're talking about. The forensic audit, I said plainly. The boutique's numbers. The plan you and Brent made to get around the prenup. And that talk about emotional mistreatment. I kept my voice calm, measured. Anything I missed? She glared. You've been spying on me? No need, I said. Turns out people talk. Especially the ones you look down on. She took a step back, her brain clearly recalculating. Whatever you think you know. Save it, I cut in. Victor has everything. And if it comes to it, the DA might be interested in what we found. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You wouldn't dare. I don't want to, I admitted. Despite everything, I don't want to see you get dragged into legal trouble. But I will protect what's mine. Tears welled up in her eyes. What do you want? A clean break, I said. You can keep the house. We settle fairly. I keep the business and my collection. We walk away without dragging each other through court. And if I say no, then we go the hard route, I said. And everything comes out. Every document, every message, every dollar. She stared at me, quiet for a long time. And I think, for the first time, she realized the man she thought she could twist around her finger was gone. "I'll have my lawyer call Victor," she finally said, her voice flat and cold, like all the fight had drained out of her. The meeting was held in Victor Reynolds' office. Neutral ground, with witnesses on both sides. Tessa showed up with her attorney, Sandra Burke. I'd seen her around before, always dressed to impress, known for playing hardball in divorce court. Her specialty? Finding creative ways around prenups. Victor greeted them politely but didn't waste time on small talk. "We've prepared a settlement offer that's fair to both parties," he said, sliding a folder across the table. Sandra scoffed. "We'll be the judge of that." As Victor laid out the terms, the room got quiet. Tessa would keep the house and receive a cash settlement. I'd retain full ownership of Lawson custom rods, including my entire collection. Sandra didn't like that. Her expression soured. "This is insulting," she snapped. "Mrs. Lawson is entitled to a significant portion of the business she helped build." I didn't say a word. I let Victor handle it. "The business was founded and profitable long before the marriage," he responded evenly. "The prenuptial agreement clearly outlines that." Sandra leaned in, her tone sharp. "Prenups can be invalidated if signed under duress, or if the terms are grossly unfair." Victor didn't blink. We were expecting that argument. He calmly pushed another folder her way. "These documents detail Mrs. Lawson's misappropriation of funds from her boutique leading up to the divorce. And here," he tapped the stack, "is documentation suggesting a coordinated effort to manipulate the situation using emotional allegations." Tessa's face went pale. She whispered something to Sandra, who frowned and asked, "Can we have the room for a moment?" Once they stepped out, Victor leaned toward me. "They'll ask for some concessions, but we've got them boxed in." When they returned, Tessa kept her eyes down. Sandra's aggressive edge had vanished. Her tone now was measured. "We're willing to accept most of your terms. However, we request an additional $45,000 in the settlement and continued health coverage for 1 year." Victor glanced at me. I gave a single nod. "Agreed," he replied. "We'll finalize the documents today." As the lawyers ironed out the details, Tessa finally looked up at me. "You were always smarter than I gave you credit for." "No," I said quietly. "You just underestimated how many people saw who you really were." Her eyes narrowed. "Emily." "She chose integrity," I said. "Something you might try sometime." Tessa reached for her purse. "You know what's funny? Brent left me last week. Said I was too much drama. I didn't feel anything, no satisfaction, no smugness. Just a deep, tired kind of sadness." "I'm sorry it came to this," I said. She studied me for a moment. "Are you really?" "Yes," I replied honestly. 24 years deserved better." There was a flicker of something in her eyes, maybe regret, but it passed. "The house will need a new roof next year," she said as she turned to go. "Just so you know." I watched her walk away, realizing the woman I married had probably left a long time ago. I'd just been too blind to see it. 5 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood inside the new Lawson Custom Rods workshop just outside town. The morning light spilled in through big windows, lighting up the custom rods displayed on the reclaimed wood walls. The expansion had been a big gamble, but a smart one, and it was already proving worth it. The bell above the door jingled. Kevin walked in carrying a box labeled in Japanese. "Last shipment's here," he said, setting it down on the workbench. "We're officially ready for the Sports Expo next month." I nodded, scanning the room with quiet pride. "Reserve us another booth," I told him. "The new Fly collection deserves its own spotlight." Kevin paused. "You heard from Tessa lately?" I shook my head. Mutual friends said she sold the house and moved to Tucson, chasing some opportunity with a boutique chain. The one here had folded a few months after the divorce. There was nothing left to keep it afloat. "Better this way," I added. And I meant it. The door opened again, and Emily stepped in. After Tessa's shop closed, I'd brought her on board to manage our online presence. Between her work ethic and her honesty, she'd become one of the company's biggest assets. "The Angler's monthly feature boosted our site traffic again," she said, holding up a tablet. "We've got pre-orders locked in through next quarter." I smiled. "Let's celebrate. Schedule a team dinner, Sunset Ridge Grill, Friday night." After they both left, I stayed behind, finishing work on a custom rod for one of my oldest clients. The slow, steady work calmed me like it always had. Only now, the background stress that used to hover over me like a storm cloud was gone. My phone buzzed. A text from Victor. "Lunch tomorrow? That's something you'll want to hear." The next day, we met at his favorite steakhouse. Tucked in a quiet booth, he slid a newspaper clipping across the table. Victor slid the clipping across the table. Thought you'd want to see this. It was a short article from a Tucson business journal. Timberline boutique files bankruptcy amid fraud allegations. Tessa's name showed up in the second paragraph. She tried the same tricks with her new partners, Victor said, shaking his head. Only this time, they weren't as forgiving as you. I set the paper down. Not our problem anymore. Victor looked at me for a long moment. You've changed, Derek. The guy I met a year ago would have taken some kind of satisfaction in this. That guy was still trying to save something that was already gone, I said quietly. These days, I'm more focused on building than trying to salvage. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. A notification from our online store, another big international order. Business good? Victor asked. Better than ever, I told him. Turns out, leaning into what I'm best at was the right call all along. On the drive back to the shop, I passed the old street where our house used to be. For the first time, I didn't feel that tug in my chest. No urge to turn down it. No weight from old memories. At 50, I wasn't starting over. I was rebuilding. I'd carried too much experience to ever really be back at square one. But I had a kind of clarity now that only comes from surviving a storm you didn't see coming. The shop was thriving. My work had evolved. And the future didn't feel like something to be afraid of anymore. It felt wide open. That evening, standing alone in the new Lawson Custom Rods workshop as the sun set through the big windows, I felt it hit me. I was happy. Not because I'd escaped a bad marriage, but because losing it had finally given me room to find myself again. A full year had passed since the divorce. Lawson Custom Rods had just been selected to showcase at the National Fishing Expo in Minneapolis, the biggest event in the industry. As I stood at our booth, surrounded by the best rods we'd ever produced, I felt a quiet, hard-earned pride in what we'd built. A man approached, middle-aged, confident, inspecting one of our custom fly rods. Impressive craftsmanship, he said. Thank you, I replied, recognizing him. Caleb Monroe, owner of a well-known chain of fishing lodges. This new series uses a carbon fiber blend we developed last spring, I explained. He tested the rod's balance. I'd like to place an order for every one of my locations. Your reputation's well-earned. We went over the details and shook hands, our biggest wholesale order yet. As he walked off, I spotted a familiar face across the floor. Tessa. She looked different. The designer look was gone, replaced with something simpler. Her once perfectly polished image now slightly worn at the edges. She was talking to a vendor, animated, maybe a little desperate. I thought about avoiding her, but she turned and saw me. No point in pretending. After a pause, she walked over. Derek, she said, carefully neutral. I heard your company would be here. Tessa, I nodded. Didn't expect to see you in this line of work. I'm with Trail West Supply now, she said. Working on their apparel line. There was a pause, long and awkward. I saw the feature on your expansion in Business Monthly, she added. Congrats. Thanks, I said, keeping my tone professional. How's Tucson? She flinched a little. I'm back in Washington. Tucson. Didn't work out. I already knew about the bankruptcy and fraud charges, but there was no reason to bring it up. The clothing line's my fresh start, she said, and for once, there was something almost genuine in her voice. Trying to learn from the past. Before I could say anything, Kevin waved me over, an important client waiting. I nodded at her. Good luck with it. Then I walked away. That night in my hotel room, I thought back on the encounter. Seeing Tessa didn't stir up what I thought it might. No anger. No longing. Just a quiet recognition. She was part of a chapter I'd closed. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Monroe, order is confirmed. Team's celebrating at the shop. I smiled and replied. Tomorrow, I'd fly back home, to a business that was thriving, a workshop that actually felt like mine, and a team that had become something more like family. If the past year had taught me anything, it was this. Sometimes the worst endings clear the way for the best beginnings. At 51, I'd stepped into my second act, not in spite of the betrayal, but because of the strength I found in surviving it. 2 years out from the divorce, I stood on the deck of my new lakeside cabin, casting a line into the calm, golden water. This place, 22 acres of quiet shoreline, had been a dream I shelved for years. Now, it was both a personal retreat and a testing ground for my latest designs. The phone rang, cutting through the quiet of the evening. It was Victor Reynolds. Just checking in, he said. Your patent came through for the new reel design. I smiled as I reeled in my line. That's fantastic news. We'll start production next month, he added. We covered a few legal details, and then his voice took on a different tone. I ran into Tessa at the courthouse yesterday. My hand tightened slightly on the rod. Oh, she asked how you were doing, Victor said. Seemed genuinely curious. I paused, then asked, and how is she? I was a little surprised I even wanted to know. She's hanging in there, Victor answered. Trail West supply is still afloat, but it's not what she had with you. After we hung up, I looked out over the lake, the water still and calm under the early night sky. So much had changed. At 53, I'd found a peace I never thought possible after everything that happened. The business had grown beyond anything I imagined. We had a solid team now, 14 skilled folks who loved the craft as much as I did. Our custom rods, 6-month waiting list. But more than the success, it was the passion that returned. The joy of creating, the freedom to focus, without the weight of a troubled marriage dragging behind me. Every now and then, I'd hear bits and pieces about Tessa. She and Brent never made it work. He'd moved to San Francisco with someone else. She'd dated some, but nothing serious. That confident edge she used to wear so boldly had softened a bit. Maybe life humbled her some. I didn't feel satisfaction in any of it. Just a distant, quiet kind of compassion. We'd once shared a life. That meant something, even if it didn't last. Last month, Emily had invited me to dinner. Nothing fancy, just two friends catching up over good food and stories. Still, something about her honesty, her steady presence, stuck with me. We both had pasts. We agreed to take things slow. And honestly, I was good with that. As the sun dipped below the horizon and dusk took hold, I cast another line into the still lake. The way the rod moved, the soft ripple as the lure touched down, it all felt like a quiet reminder. Life finds its rhythm again, even after the storm. I hadn't gotten through betrayal by turning cold. I made it by staying true, to my work, to my values, to who I was underneath the hurt. The man I'd become wasn't shaped by what Tessa did. He was shaped by how I chose to respond. With patience, with purpose, with dignity. The cabin, the business, this calm at the edge of the water, these weren't just things I'd rebuilt. They were proof that you can start over without losing yourself. And standing there, watching the first stars dance on the lake's surface, I felt it deep in my chest. This was exactly where I was meant to be. Bye.